Get your goddamn hands off my fence before I call every cop in Larimer County. The words ripped through the crisp October morning air like a chainsaw. I stood 10 feet from my northern property line, fists clenched, watching a blonde woman in a Patagonia vest literally trying to pry open my gate latch with a crowbar. Behind her, 20 people in matching turquoise shirts stood holding clipboards and phones, filming everything. The woman designer's sunglasses perched on her head like a crown didn't even flinch. She just smiled that terrible smile. The kind that said she'd already talked to a lawyer. Mitch, she called out sweetly, her voice dripping with practiced civility, we're simply exercising our community's right to access the wetlands preserve. Your fence is blocking heritage migration paths. She held up a folder. We have documentation. Documentation? I barked, my voice shaking with rage. Lady, I don't give a damn what your little country club printed on fancy paper. This is private property. That means mine, not yours, not the neighborhood's. Mine. Actually, she said, stepping closer. Crowbar still in hand. Jefferson Commons Estates believes differently, and so does our legal team. We've filed an access petition with the county. You'll be hearing from them. She turned to the crowd. Everyone, note the time. 7:47 a.m. Witness his threatening behavior. One of the men started walking onto my land, boots crunching gravel like he owned the place. That's when my German shepherd, Dutch, came barreling around the corner of the barn, barking like the hounds of hell had been unleashed. The man stumbled backward, nearly tripping over his own feet. The woman, I'd later learn her name, was Patricia Brennan, HOA, president of Jefferson Commons Estates, professional busybody, and soon to be my worst nightmare pointed at Dutch like he was a war crime. That dog is aggressive. This is going in the report. Good, I spat. Put this in your report too. You've got exactly 30 seconds to get off my access road before I treat you like any other trespasser. Patricia smiled wider. You just threatened me in front of 20 witnesses. Thank you, Mitch. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just another neighborhood dispute. This was war. My name is Mitch Callahan, and I'd been living on this 43-acre horse ranch in northern Colorado for 8 years. 8 peaceful, quiet, hard-working years. I bred quarter horses, kept a small herd of cattle, and ran a boarding operation for folks who wanted their animals kept somewhere that wasn't a glorified parking lot with a paddock attached. The land sat just outside Fort Collins, tucked against the foothills where the plains started giving way to mountains. Real Colorado. The kind of place where you could still see the Milky Way at night and hear nothing but wind through the cottonwoods. The property backed up to wetlands, natural, wild, untouched. Not a park, not public land. Just raw Colorado grassland where elk still moved through in the fall, sandhill cranes stopped during migration, and coyotes sang at night like they'd been doing for 10,000 years. I'd bought the place in 2016 after 22 years working federal law enforcement. DEA, mostly. Undercover ops, cartel interdiction, the kind of work that ages you fast and makes you crave silence when it's over. I took early retirement, cashed out my pension, and bought this slice of peace. 43 acres of mine, nobody else's. The fence line between my property and Jefferson Commons Estates had always been clear. Chain link and barbed wire on my side, decorative stones and HOA-mandated white picket nonsense on theirs. They'd moved in 4 years ago. A sprawling development of cookie-cutter McMansions marketed as luxury Colorado living with nature access. Translated, overpriced suburbia with a hiking trail. They slapped the word preserve on to justify charging $850,000 for a house with vinyl siding and a 2-car garage. For 3 years, we coexisted just fine. They jogged their designer dogs past my fence. I tipped my hat when I saw them. They waved, no problems. A few folks even boarded their horses with me. Nice people, quiet, respectful. Then Patricia Brennan got elected HOA president in March 2024, and everything went to hell. It started small, like these things always do. A letter in my mailbox, not even official mail, just stuck in there like a grocery store flyer asking if I'd consider allowing limited pedestrian access across my northern pasture to enhance community wellness and reconnect residents with nature. The letter was printed on HOA stationery, complete with their little logo, a stylized tree inside a circle, like they'd invented forests. It was signed by Patricia herself, in looping cursive that looked like it came from a calligraphy class. Polite, soft language, friendly tone, the kind of letter that sounds reasonable until you actually read it. They wanted a 6-foot-wide gravel path cutting straight through my grazing land, past my barn, through the area where I kept my mares during foaling season, and ending at the wetlands. They estimated light foot traffic, maybe 20 people a day. They promised to maintain it themselves. They even offered to split the cost of liability insurance. I read it twice, set it down, and wrote back the same day. No, one word. Clear. Final. 2 weeks later, another letter arrived. This one was firmer. The tone had shifted from friendly suggestion to gentle insistence. Something about historical easements and shared environmental stewardship. They even included a hand-drawn map showing the proposed path, complete with little dotted lines and labels like Scenic Overlook and Wildflower Meadow. The kicker? They'd already named it. The Heritage Loop Trail. I called the number at the bottom of the letter. Patricia answered on the second ring. Jefferson Commons, HOA. Patricia speaking. Ma'am, this is Mitch Callahan. I got your second letter. Oh, Mitch! I'm so glad you called. Did you have a chance to review the updated proposal? I did. And the answer's still no. There was a pause. A long one. Then her voice came back, still sweet, but with an edge now. Like honey poured over broken glass. Mitch, I have to say, I'm a little surprised. We're not asking for much. Just a small footpath. Natural materials. Eco-friendly. It would actually increase your property value. We had a real estate consultant review comparable properties, and ma'am, with respect, I'm not interested in property value. I'm interested in keeping my horses from getting spooked by joggers. I'm interested in not having liability issues when someone trips on a rock and sues me. And I'm interested in maintaining the privacy I paid for when I bought this land. That seems selfish. I blinked, pulled the phone away from my ear, stared at it, then put it back. Excuse me? I said it seems selfish, Mitch. We're a community. We believe in sharing. This attitude of yours, it's very isolating. And frankly, it goes against the values we're trying to build here at Jefferson Commons. Ma'am, I don't live in Jefferson Commons. I live on private property. Your values don't apply to my land, but your land impacts our quality of life. That's not my problem. Her voice dropped, losing the sweetness entirely. Mitch, I really hope you'll reconsider, because this conversation doesn't end here. I hung up. That night, I sat on my porch with a beer, watching the sun set over the wetlands, and felt the first twist of unease in my gut. It was the same feeling I used to get on surveillance ops when something was about to go sideways. The air felt wrong. Too still, too quiet. Dutch sat beside me, ears up, alert. He felt it too. "We've got trouble coming, boy," I muttered. He just looked at me, then back toward the fence line like he already knew. The first real shot came 3 days later. I woke up early, like I always do, 5:30 a.m., before the sun, fed the horses, checked the water troughs, walked the fence line looking for breaks or signs of coyotes. Everything seemed normal until I reached the northern gate, the one closest to Jefferson Commons. There, zip-tied to the chain link, was a stack of flyers, maybe 50 of them, all identical. Full color, professionally printed on glossy cardstock. The headline, in bold red letters, "One man's fence equals a neighborhood's loss." Below that, a photo of my land taken from a drone with a red X drawn over my barn and the caption, "Local rancher blocks families from nature." At the bottom, in smaller text, Mitch Callahan refuses to allow safe, family-friendly access to public wetlands. His selfish stance threatens our children's connection to the natural world. Jefferson Commons deserves better. My blood went cold, then hot, then cold again. They'd used my full name. They'd photographed my property without permission. And they were calling me selfish in a public campaign. I tore the flyers down, every single one, stuffed them into a garbage bag, and drove straight to Patricia's house. She lived in one of the bigger homes in Jefferson Commons, a 2-story colonial with a 3-car garage and a lawn so green it looked fake. Probably was, this was Colorado, and nobody's grass looked like that without chemicals. I parked in her driveway, walked up to the front door, and knocked. Hard. She answered 30 seconds later, dressed in yoga pants and a Jefferson Commons Estates hoodie, coffee mug in hand, looking completely unbothered by the fact that it was 6:45 inches the morning. "Mitch, what a surprise." I held up the flyers. "Did you print these?" She glanced at them, then back at me, and smiled. Not a fake smile, a real one. She was proud. "Oh, those. Yes, community awareness campaign. We're trying to educate residents about access issues in the area." "Access issues? You mean my fence?" "Your fence," she said slowly, like I was a child who needed things explained, "is a barrier. And barriers hurt communities. They create division. They prevent connection. We're just trying to help people understand what's at stake. What's at stake is my private property, which you don't have any right to. Private," she repeated. And the way she said it, like the word tasted bad, made my hands curl into fists. "You know, Mitch, that kind of thinking is outdated. We live in a connected world now. People deserve access to beauty, to nature. Hoarding land behind fences, that's a relic of the past. It's also called property rights. You might want to look that up." She took a sip of coffee, utterly calm. "I understand you're upset. But this conversation is bigger than just you and me. This is about what kind of community we want to be. Do we want to be open, welcoming, progressive, or do we want to be closed off, territorial, and frankly, hostile? I'm not hostile. I'm private. There's a difference. Not to the families who just want their children to see an elk. Then they can drive to Rocky Mountain National Park like everyone else." Patricia stepped closer, lowering her voice, and I saw something shift in her eyes, something calculating. "Mitch, I'm going to be very clear with you. This path is going to happen. One way or another, you can work with us and be part of a positive community initiative, or you can resist and make yourself the villain. But either way, we're moving forward." I stared at her, really looked at her, and in that moment, I realized she wasn't just some busybody HOA president. She was something worse. She was someone who genuinely believed she was right, and that belief gave her permission to do whatever it took to win. "We'll see," I said quietly. I turned and walked back to my truck. Behind me, I heard her call out, "Have a blessed day, Mitch." I didn't look back. By the end of that week, the flyers were everywhere. Telephone poles, community bulletin boards taped to the windows of the coffee shop in town. Someone even left a stack at the feed store where I bought hay. The owner, Danny, an old guy who'd run the place for 30 years, pulled me aside when I came in. "Mitch, you got some kind of problem with the HOA folks? They want to cut through my land." I said no. He frowned. "They're making you sound like the damn Grinch." "I know. You need help?" "Not yet, but I'll let you know." He nodded, rang up my order, and as I was leaving, he called out, "For what it's worth, I think you're right. Land's land. Nobody gets to tell you what to do with it." It was a small thing, but it mattered. That Saturday, I woke to the sound of voices. Lots of them. I threw on jeans and boots, grabbed my phone, and walked out to find 50 people marching down County Road 14 toward my northern gate. They had signs, big ones, hand-painted, professionally printed, some on poster board, some on actual wooden stakes. "Share the land. Nature for all. Callahan equals selfish. Let our kids run free." There were kids on bikes, weaving through the crowd. Dogs in strollers, actual strollers, like the dogs were babies. Someone had brought a golden retriever wearing a bandana that said, "Hike more." And at the front, megaphone in hand, clipboard tucked under her arm, was Patricia. She looked like she was leading a goddamn parade. I walked down my gravel drive slowly, deliberately, Dutch at my side. Both of us just watching this circus roll in like it had been rehearsed. Patricia saw me and waved. Not a small wave. A big wave. Like we were old friends meeting at a barbecue. Then she raised the megaphone. "Good morning, Mitch. Beautiful day, isn't it?" I didn't answer. She turned to the crowd. "Everyone, this is Mitch Callahan, the landowner we've been talking about. Let's show him what community looks like." Cheers erupted. Actual cheering. People clapped. A few kids rang bicycle bells. Patricia turned back to me, megaphone still raised. "Mitch, we're here peacefully today to remind you that this community believes in sharing. We believe in access. We believe in nature for everyone, not just those who hoard land behind fences." More cheers. One kid, maybe 8 years old, threw a frisbee over my fence. It landed near my water trough. His dad laughed and gave him a high five. Another kid climbed halfway up the chain link, trying to peek over at the wetlands. "Get down from there!" I shouted. The kid's mom glared at me. "He's just looking." "He's trespassing." Patricia's voice boomed through the megaphone. "Mitch, we're not your enemies. We're your NEIJBers. We just want to work together to create something beautiful. Something that benefits everyone. Let's put aside this hostility and find common ground." "You're standing on a public road harassing me," I shot back. "That's not neighborly. That's intimidation." "Intimidation?" Patricia laughed into the megaphone, and the crowd laughed with her. "Mitch, look around. These are families, parents, children, people who just want to enjoy the land that nature intended to be shared. Does this look like intimidation to you?" Someone started chanting. "Open the gate. Open the gate." Others joined in. Within seconds, 50 voices were shouting in unison. "Open the gate. Open the gate. Open the gate." I pulled out my phone and started recording. Every face. Every sign. Every kid climbing my fence. Every adult egging them on. "You've got 10 minutes to clear out," I said, voice steady and loud enough to carry. "Then I'm calling the sheriff." Patricia smiled into the megaphone. "Go ahead, Mitch. We'll wait." "We've got all day," I called. Sheriff Tom Brooker arrived 18 minutes later, lights flashing, truck kicking up a cloud of dust as he pulled onto the shoulder of County Road 14. He'd known me for years. We'd served together briefly in the Army Reserves back in the early 2000s, before I went DEA and he went local law enforcement. Good man, no nonsense. The kind of cop who actually gave a damn about doing things right. He stepped out of his truck, looked at the crowd, then looked at me. "Mitch, what's going on?" "They're blocking the road, Tom, harassing my property, trespassing on camera." I held up my phone, got all of it recorded. Tom turned to Patricia. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you and your group to disperse. This is a county road, not a designated protest zone." Patricia lowered the megaphone but didn't step back. "Sheriff, we have every right to peacefully assemble. First Amendment. We're not breaking any laws. You're obstructing a county road and creating a public disturbance. That's 2 laws right there. Move along. We're not obstructing anything. We're standing on public property." Tom's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, I'm not going to ask again." Patricia stared him down for a long moment, then turned to the crowd. "Everyone, let's go. We've made our point. Mitch knows where we stand." She looked back at me, smiled, that terrible smile, and said into the megaphone, "This isn't over." The crowd slowly filtered away, grumbling, shooting me dirty looks as they passed. One guy flipped me off. A woman muttered something about entitled jerks, loud enough for me to hear. Tom stayed behind, leaning against his truck, arms crossed. "Mitch, what the hell's going on? HOA wants to cut through my land, build a trail to the wetlands." I said no. Now they're making it personal. How personal? Flyers, social media, public shaming campaigns, and now this. He shook his head. "You got a lawyer?" "Not yet. Get one. Because this is just the beginning. I called Rebecca Hale that afternoon. She was a property attorney out of Fort Collins, sharp, relentless, and mean as hell in a courtroom. I'd heard about her from another rancher named Jack Parsons, who'd fought off a pipeline company trying to eminent domain his land for a natural gas corridor. Jack said Rebecca had shredded the company's lawyers so badly they settled within 3 weeks. I needed someone like that. She answered on the third ring. Rebecca Hale. Miss Hale, my name's Mitch Callahan. I'm a rancher outside Fort Collins, and I've got an HOA problem. What kind of problem? I told her everything. The letters, the flyers, the march, the drone photos, the trespassing kids. When I finished, there was silence on the other end. Then she said, Mitch, this isn't a friendly dispute. This is a coordinated campaign, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. How much worse depends on how far they're willing to go. But if they've already printed flyers, organized a march, and started a social media campaign, they're not stopping. They're escalating. What do I do? Document everything. Every letter, every interaction, every trespass attempt. Save every flyer, every email, every social media post. And whatever you do, don't engage directly. Don't yell. Don't threaten. Let them hang themselves. That's it? For now. Let's see what they do next. If they keep pushing, we'll push back harder. But we need evidence first. Lots of it. I've got cameras on every gate. Good. Keep them running. And send me everything you've got so far. I did. That night, I spent 3 hours uploading footage, scanning documents, screenshotting Facebook posts from the Jefferson Commons HOA page. By midnight, I'd sent Rebecca a file folder with over 40 items. She called me the next morning. Mitch, you've got a solid case for harassment, maybe even civil conspiracy if we can prove coordination. But here's the thing, they're being careful. Everything they've done so far is technically legal. Annoying, unethical, but legal. So what do? We wait for them to slip. And trust me, they will. I didn't have to wait long. 3 days later, I got official notice from Larimer County. It came in a thick manila envelope, county seal embossed on the front, certified mail signature required. I opened it standing at my mailbox, heart already sinking before I even read the first line. Notice of public petition hearing, heritage access easement review. A formal petition had been filed requesting a county review of my property for potential heritage access easement designation. The petition claimed that my northern pasture contained a historically significant migration corridor used by indigenous peoples and wildlife for centuries. It cited environmental protection statutes, community wellness needs, public interest considerations, and here's the kicker, signed affidavits from 83 Jefferson Commons residents supporting public access. 83 people. Signatures. Affidavits. I called Rebecca immediately. She was quiet for a long moment after I read her the notice. Mitch, this is bad. How bad? They've got county letterhead now. This isn't just an HOA pressure campaign anymore. They've escalated to official legal action. Can they do this? They can try, but here's the thing. Heritage easements are real. They're rare, but they exist. If they can prove your land contains a documented historical corridor, the county can force an easement. It's happened before. My stomach dropped. So I could lose? Not if we fight smart. I need you to send me everything, your deed, title, history, property surveys, historical land use records, everything. We're going to tear this petition apart line by line. I've got all of it. Good. And Mitch? Yeah? This just became a war. The county scheduled a public hearing for 3 weeks out Thursday, November 14th, 2024, 2 p.m. at the Larimer County Administrative Building in Fort Collins. In the meantime, Patricia ramped up her campaign to a whole new level. Flyers appeared on every corner in town, stapled to telephone poles, taped inside storefront windows. Not just in Jefferson Commons anymore, all over Fort Collins. The new flyers were even more aggressive. Will Larimer County stand with families or with one man's greed? Mitch Callahan, blocking nature, dividing community. 83 families vs 1 rancher. Who should win? Facebook posts went viral. The Jefferson Commons HOA page shared daily updates. Photos of kids holding signs, videos of families talking about how much they wanted access to the wetlands. They even created a hashtag, #OpenThePath. It got picked up by local influencers, mommy bloggers, outdoor enthusiasts. Someone started an online petition, "Let Larimer families access nature. Stop Mitch Callahan." It got 1,200 signatures in 4 days. And then the local news picked it up. A reporter from Channel 9 News came out, interviewed Patricia in front of my fence, while she stood there looking concerned and compassionate, hands folded, voice soft and reasonable. "This isn't about one man," Patricia said to the camera. "This is about a community coming together to protect something precious. These wetlands have been here for thousands of years. Wildlife depends on them. Our children deserve to experience them. And right now, one person is standing in the way of that." The reporter nodded sympathetically. "And Mr. Callahan has refused all attempts at compromise?" "Every single one," Patricia said, shaking her head sadly. "We've offered to maintain the path ourselves. We've offered liability insurance. We've offered to limit hours. He won't even discuss it. They didn't interview me, didn't call, didn't ask for my side. They just ran the story." The headline on the evening news, "Rancher refuses community access to wetlands. Locals push back." I watched it online that night, sitting at my kitchen table, jaw clenched, feeling my blood pressure spike with every word. Rebecca called 5 minutes after the segment aired. "Mitch, don't react. They're painting me like I'm some kind of villain. I know." "Let them." "Let them?" "Yes. Because right now, they think they're winning. They think public opinion is on their side. And when people think they're winning, they get sloppy. They make mistakes. So let them run their mouths. Let them build their case on emotion and PR. Because when we walk into that hearing, we're bringing facts. And facts beat feelings every single time." I took a breath. "You're sure about this?" "Mitch, I've been doing this for 15 years. Trust me." So I did. But the pressure kept building. 2 days later, someone spray painted "Share the Land" on the county road in front of my gate. Huge letters, bright orange, visible from a quarter-mile away. I called the sheriff. Tom came out, took photos, filed a report. No witnesses, no cameras on the road, nothing he could do. The next morning, I found dog shit smeared on my mailbox. Then a fake Yelp review appeared for my horse boarding business. "Owner is hostile and aggressive, threatens neighbors, would not recommend. Unsafe environment, 1 star." Rebecca filed complaints, got the review taken down, but 3 more popped up the next day. Different accounts, same message. "I wanted to board my horse here, but the owner screamed at me. Dangerous man. Keeps vicious dogs. Refuses to be a good neighbor. Avoid." My phone started ringing. Clients asking if everything was okay. Some were spooked. One pulled her horse out entirely, said she didn't want to get involved in drama. I lost $1,200 a month in boarding income. Patricia was strangling me financially, socially, legally, all at once. And the hearing was still 2 weeks away. Then came the breaking point. It was a Tuesday morning, November 5th, 2024, just after dawn. I was out feeding the horses when Dutch started barking. Not his usual bark, this was different. Urgent. Aggressive. I dropped the feed bucket and ran toward the northern gate. When I rounded the corner by the old cottonwood tree, my stomach dropped. The gate was wide open. The chain that secured it was cut. Not broken, C-U-T. Clean slice through hardened steel, the kind you need bolt cutters or a plasma torch to get through. And standing just inside my property line, wearing a Jefferson Commons polo and holding a clipboard, was a man I'd never seen before. 30-something, khakis, work boots. Behind him, 2 other men with surveying equipment, a tripod, a laser-level measuring tape. I didn't run. I walked. Slow, steady, deliberate. Dutch stayed at my side, hackles raised, growling low. "Gentlemen," I said, voice cold and flat, "you're trespassing." The man with the clipboard looked up, completely unfazed. He even smiled. "Morning. We're with Heritage Land Solutions out of Denver. We've been contracted by Jefferson Commons Estates to conduct a preliminary environmental and historical land assessment." "On whose authority?" He pulled a document from his clipboard and held it out. "County Petition 2024HC47. It's all above board." I took the document. It had the Larimer County seal at the top, but something felt wrong. The formatting was off. The signature at the bottom wasn't from anyone I recognized, just a typed name with no actual signature. "This isn't county authorization," I said slowly. "This is an HOA memo with a fake seal." The man's smile faltered. We were told this was a legitimate work order. By who? "The HOA president, Patricia Brennan." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Show me your actual county permit, the real one." He hesitated. I was told it was being processed." "So you don't have one?" "We were assured." "I don't care what you were assured. You're on private property without authorization. That's called trespassing. You've got 60 seconds to pack up your equipment and leave before I call the sheriff and press charges against all three of you." The two guys with the surveying equipment looked at each other nervously. "Sir, we're just doing our job," one of them said. "Then your job just turned into a criminal trespass charge. Move, now." They started packing up, fast. The guy with the clipboard tried one last time. "Look, we were hired in good faith. If there's a misunderstanding, there's no misunderstanding. You were lied to, and you broke the law. Leave." They did. I stood there watching them load their equipment into a white Ford pickup with Heritage Land Solutions printed on the side. Got the license plate on camera, got their faces, got everything. The moment they were gone, I called Rebecca. They just tried to conduct a survey on my land. "What?" I explained everything, sent her the video footage within 2 minutes. She was silent for a long moment, then said something I'll never forget. "Mitch, they just handed us the case." Rebecca moved fast. Within 2 hours, she'd filed an emergency motion with the county for immediate injunctive relief, barring any Jefferson Commons representatives or contractors from entering my property pending the hearing. She also filed a police report on my behalf. Criminal trespass, fraud, destruction of property, the cut chain, and conspiracy to commit unlawful survey. Sheriff Tom came out again that afternoon, took statements, reviewed the footage. He looked tired, frustrated. "Mitch, I'm going to be straight with you. This is getting out of hand." "I know. Patricia Brennan is playing games. She's pushing boundaries, seeing what she can get away with, and eventually someone's going to get hurt." "What do you want me to do?" "Exactly what you're doing. Document everything. Stay calm. Let the legal system work. And if it doesn't?" He looked at me for a long moment. "Then we'll deal with that when it happens." He left, and I spent the rest of the day reinforcing my gates, adding extra cameras, and changing all my locks. That night, I barely slept. The hearing was now 1 week away. Rebecca and I met at her office in Fort Collins, a small space in an old brick building downtown, crammed with filing cabinets, law books, and empty coffee cups. She spread the case files across her desk, like a general planning a battle. "Okay," she said, "let's talk about what we're up against." She pulled up the county petition on her laptop and walked me through it. "They're claiming your northern pasture contains a documented heritage corridor used by Ute and Arapaho tribes for seasonal migration between the plains and the mountains. They cite historical maps from the 1,860 seconds, wildlife studies showing elk migration patterns, and environmental assessments arguing that public access would enhance conservation efforts. Is any of that true? Some of it. There are historical migration routes in this area, and elk do move through the wetlands. But here's the thing, none of that gives them automatic access to your land. Heritage easements require proof of continuous public use over a significant period of time. They have to show that the public has been using this land, your land, for decades, if not centuries. They can't, because they haven't been. I've owned it for 8 years, and it's been fenced and private the whole time. Exactly. But they're going to argue implied use, that even though it's fenced now, historically it was open, and therefore the public has an implied right to access. That's bullshit. Yes, but it's legal bullshit. So we need to prove, beyond any doubt, that your land has been privately held and privately used for as long as records exist. She pulled out a thick folder. Inside were historical land surveys, title records, tax documents, aerial photos dating back to the 1,950 seconds. I've traced your property's ownership back to 1,923. It's been privately owned the entire time. Ranching, farming, grazing, always private, never public. We've got survey maps showing fence lines from the 1,940 seconds. We've got tax records showing continuous private use. They don't have a case, Mitch. Not a real one. Then why are we even having a hearing? Because they filed a petition with 83 signatures. That triggers a mandatory county review. But here's where it gets interesting. She pulled up another document. A spreadsheet. I cross-referenced every name on that petition with public records. And guess what I found? What? She smiled. The kind of smile a wolf makes right before it goes for the throat. 12 of those signatures belonged to people who are dead. I stared at her. Dead, dead, deceased, no longer with us. I've got death certificates for all of them. How the hell? Because Patricia got sloppy. She pulled names from old HOA directories, voter rolls, maybe even obituaries. She didn't check. She just needed numbers. And now we've got her. What else? 8 more signatures belong to people who moved out of state over a year ago. They're not even Colorado residents anymore. Another 6 are clearly forged. Same handwriting, same pen, signed in sequence. And then there's this one. She pointed to a name on the spreadsheet. Bailey Brennan. Who's that? Rebecca pulled up a photo. A golden retriever wearing a bandana. That's Patricia's dog. I laughed. Actually laughed. First time in weeks. She signed her DOG to a legal petition? She did. And that's fraud, Mitch. That's provable, prosecutable fraud. Can we use this? Oh, we're gonna use the hell out of this. The hearing was set for Thursday at 2 p.m. Rebecca and I arrived at the Larimer County Administrative Building at 1:30, dressed sharp, files organized, ready for war. The building was old red brick, tall windows, the kind of place that still smelled like old wood polish and government paperwork. We took the stairs to the 3rd floor, walked down a hallway lined with framed photos of county commissioners from decades past, and entered Conference Room C. It was packed. 50, maybe 60 people crammed into a room meant for 30. All of them wearing Jefferson Commons shirts, turquoise, with the tree logo. Patricia sat front and center, flanked by 2 lawyers in expensive suits. Dark wool, shined shoes, leather briefcases. They looked like they charged $400 an hour. Behind her, the crowd murmured. Some people shot me dirty looks. Others just stared. I sat down next to Rebecca at the petitioner's table. She opened her briefcase, pulled out a thick folder, and set it down with a heavy thud that echoed through the room. Patricia glanced over, saw the folder, and her smile flickered. Just for a second. At exactly 2 p.m., the county commissioner entered. A woman in her 60s, gray hair pulled back, no-nonsense expression. Her nameplate read Commissioner Janet Aldridge. She sat, adjusted her glasses, and opened the hearing. Good afternoon. This is a public hearing regarding Petition 2024HC47, requesting county review for potential heritage access easement designation on property owned by Mitchell Callahan, located at 4782 County Road 14. Miss Brennan, you filed the petition. You may present your case. Patricia stood, smoothed her blazer, and walked to the podium. What followed was a performance. She spoke for 15 minutes. Her voice was soft, earnest, compassionate. She talked about children who'd never seen an elk up close, families who wanted to reconnect with the land their ancestors walked. She showed photos of the wetlands, golden hour shots, stunning lighting, professional quality, and contrasted them with photos of my fence, which she described as a wall of division cutting through nature. She cited wildlife studies, environmental reports, historical maps. She talked about mental health benefits of nature access, childhood obesity rates, community cohesion, and then she brought up a kid, a 10-year-old boy named Ethan, wearing a Jefferson Commons shirt that was way too big for him. She walked him up to the microphone, put a hand on his shoulder, and had him read from a script. "My name is Ethan, and I just want to see where the ducks live," he said, voice small and shaky. "But Mr. Callahan won't let us. I don't understand why one person gets to keep nature all to himself." There were actual tears in the room, people sniffling, nodding, wiping their eyes. It was theater. Pure, calculated theater. And it was working. I could see some of the commissioners nodding sympathetically. Then Rebecca stood. She didn't waste time, didn't do emotion, didn't play games. She went straight for the throat. "Commissioners, thank you for your time. I'm going to keep this very simple." She pulled out the first document. "Miss Brennan claims this petition represents the voice of 83 Jefferson Commons residents. I'd like to address that claim." She clicked a remote, a projector screen dropped from the ceiling, and a spreadsheet appeared. "Here are the names from the petition. I've cross-referenced every single one with public records, death certificates, property records, and voter rolls. And here's what I found." She highlighted a row. "Robert Hensley, died March 2022. Heart attack." Another row. "Linda Kowalski, died December 2023. Cancer." Another. "Thomas Brennan, died June 2021. Stroke." Gasps rippled through the room. Rebecca kept going. "In total, 12 of these signatures belong to deceased individuals. 8 more belong to people who moved out of state over a year ago and are no longer Colorado residents. 6 signatures are clearly forged, same handwriting, same ink, signed consecutively." She paused, then pointed to one name, "And then there's this one, Bailey Brennan." She clicked the remote. A photo appeared. A golden retriever in a bandana. "That's Miss Brennan's dog." The room erupted. People shouted. Some laughed. Patricia's face went bright red. One of the commissioners leaned forward. "Miss Hale, are you saying this petition contains forged signatures?" "I'm saying this petition is fraudulent, Your Honor. And I have documentation to prove every single claim." She handed a thick folder to the commissioners. Patricia shot to her feet. "There may have been clerical errors." "Clerical errors?" Rebecca snapped. "You signed a dog's name to a legal document. That's not an error. That's fraud." Patricia's lawyers tried to interject, but Commissioner Aldridge held up a hand. "Miss Brennan, did you personally verify these signatures before submitting this petition?" Patricia stammered. I trusted our volunteers. They collected the signatures door to door. If there were mistakes..." "Mistakes?" Rebecca said coldly. "Don't include signing dead people's names." The room went silent. Rebecca wasn't done. "Commissioners, this petition isn't just flawed. It's a deliberate fabrication designed to manufacture public support that doesn't exist. But even beyond that, the fundamental claim that Mr. Callahan's land contains a heritage corridor requiring public access is false." She pulled out another document. "I've reviewed every historical land survey, title record, and tax document for this property dating back to 1923. This land has been privately owned, privately fenced, and privately used for over a century. There is no documented history of public access. No trails, no easements, nothing." She clicked to another slide. An aerial photo from 1952. Here's the property in 1952. Fenced. Private. Another photo. 1978. 1978. Still fenced. Still private. Another. 2003. 2003. Same story. She looked directly at Patricia. Miss Brennan's claim that this land has been historically accessible is a lie, and the petition supporting that claim is built on fraud. Commissioner Aldridge flipped through the documents Rebecca had provided, then looked at Patricia. Miss Brennan, do you have any response? Patricia opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. This is a misunderstanding. We were operating in good faith. Good faith doesn't forge signatures, Aldridge said sharply. One of Patricia's lawyers stood. Commissioner, we request a continuance to review these allegations. Denied, Aldridge said. This hearing is concluded. Petition 2024-HC47 is dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the county attorney's office for investigation into potential fraud and perjury. She banged her gavel. The room exploded. People shouting, some at Patricia, some at me. Patricia's face had gone from red to white. Her lawyers were frantically whispering to her. Rebecca leaned over to me. We just won. But she wasn't smiling. What's wrong? I asked. Because this isn't over. Patricia just lost publicly, humiliatingly. And people like her don't just walk away. She was right. 3 days later, I got a letter. Not from Patricia, from her personal attorney, notice of intent to file civil suit, defamation, harassment, and emotional distress. They were suing me. The letter claimed that I had spread false and malicious claims about Jefferson Commons estates and Patricia Brennan, causing irreparable harm to their reputation, emotional well-being, and community standing. They were demanding $500,000 in damages. I called Rebecca. She read the letter, then started laughing. Actually laughing. Mitch, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. They're suing me for $500,000. And they're going to lose. Spectacularly. Everything we said in that hearing is documented and provable. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation. They don't have a case. So, what do? We file a countersuit. Harassment, fraud, trespass, conspiracy. And we go for the throat demand the HOA be dissolved and the board members held personally liable. Can we do that? Rebecca's smile was sharp, cold. Watch me. The lawsuit took 4 months to work through the system. During that time, Patricia tried everything. She organized another march. Only 12 people showed up this time. She filed noise complaints about my horses. The county inspector came out, found nothing, dismissed them. She claimed my dogs were dangerous. Animal control investigated. Dutch passed his temperament test with flying colors. She even tried to get the county to inspect my barn for zoning violations. They found nothing. Every single claim was dismissed. Meanwhile, Rebecca was building our case. And during discovery, we found the smoking gun. Buried in the HOA's financial records, submitted as part of mandatory discovery, was an internal budget report from July 2024. There, on page 14, was a line item that stopped us both cold. Land access advocacy and legal consulting. $68,000. The funds had been paid to a company called Shepard and Associates Land Development. Rebecca traced it. Ryan Shepard, a developer out of Denver. He specialized in rezoning, land acquisition, and here's the important part, trail development for residential communities. We dug deeper. Shepard had a side company, Heritage Land Solutions, the same company whose crew had trespassed on my land. And there was more. Emails. Lots of them. Between Patricia and Ryan Shepard. One, dated August 3rd, 2024, Recallahan access timeline for Phase 2 push. The body read, Ryan, the county petition is filed. If we can get approval on the heritage easement, we unlock the full wetlands loop. Estimated property value increase across Jefferson Commons, 22%. I'll keep pressure high on Callahan. Let me know when your crew can start preliminary surveys. P. Another email, dated September 12th, Consultant Agreement. Patricia, once the easement is finalized, your consulting fee will be processed as discussed. $45,000, paid in 2 installments. Trail construction begins 30 days post-approval. Ryan, Rebecca printed them out, laid them on her desk, and looked at me. Mitch, Patricia wasn't trying to create a community trail. She was trying to line her own pockets. This whole thing, the petition, the march, the lawsuit, it was all a real estate scam. I stared at the emails. $45,000? Yep. If the easement went through, Ryan Shepard's company would build a commercial trail system through your land. Property values in Jefferson Commons would spike, and Patricia would personally receive $45,000 for making it happen. That's fraud. That's criminal fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, maybe even racketeering if we can prove the HOA board knew. Did they? She pulled out another document. HOA board meeting minutes from June 2024. One line, buried in the middle, motion passed to allocate $68,000 for Community Access Initiative consulting. Vote 4-1. 4 board members voted yes. That means they knew, or should have known. Can we use this? We're not just using it, we're dropping it like a nuclear bomb. The trial was set for March 2025, but we never made it that far. In January, Rebecca filed an emergency motion to compel discovery of all financial records, emails, and communications related to the Land Access Advocacy budget line. The judge granted it. What came back was devastating. More emails, more payments, more lies. Internal HOA Slack messages showing Patricia coordinating the fake petition signatures. Invoices from Ryan Shepard's company for preliminary land assessment dated before the county petition was even filed. A consulting agreement between Patricia and Shepard that explicitly outlined her $45,000 payment, contingent on successful easement acquisition. Rebecca compiled it all into a 47-page brief and filed it with the court. 2 weeks later, Patricia's lawyers called. They wanted to settle. Rebecca put them on speaker. "What are you offering?" she asked. "We'll drop the defamation suit. Miss Brennan will issue a public apology, and the HOA will pay $50,000 to cover Mr. 50. Callahan's legal fees and damages." Rebecca looked at me. I shook my head. "Not enough," she said. "What do you want?" Full property rights reaffirmed in writing, a permanent injunction barring any Jefferson Commons representatives from entering Mr. Callahan's land, public disclosure of all financial records related to the Land Access Initiative, and $275,000 in damages paid personally by Patricia Brennan and the 4 board members who voted to fund this fraud. Silence on the other end. That's excessive. "No," Rebecca said coldly, "that's fair. Your client tried to steal a man's land to line her own pockets. She forged legal documents. She committed fraud. She harassed him for months. $275,000 is a bargain. Take it, or we see you in court. And when we do, we're asking for punitive damages, criminal referrals, and HOA dissolution." Another long silence. "We'll get back to you." They did, the next day. They accepted. The settlement was finalized in February 2025. Full property rights reaffirmed. Permanent injunction. $275,000 in damages. Public apology. But the best part? The Larimer County District Attorney opened a criminal investigation into Patricia Brennan and Ryan Shepard for fraud, conspiracy, and wire fraud. 3 weeks later, the Jefferson Commons HOA board voted unanimously to dissolve itself. Patricia resigned in disgrace. Moved to Arizona. I heard she's working retail now. Ryan Shepard, indicted on 6 counts of fraud. Trial is still pending. And me? I used some of the settlement money to upgrade my fences, install better security, and add solar panels to the barn. The rest? I donated it to the Mountain States Land Trust, a nonprofit that helps ranchers and farmers protect their land from development. But the story doesn't end there. About a month after the settlement, I got a call from a rancher named Frank Cordero up in Wyoming. "Mitch Callahan? That's me. My name's Frank. I own a cattle ranch near Laramie. I read about your case in the paper. Just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" "For fighting back. HOAs and developers have been trying this crap for years. Most folks just give in. You didn't. I didn't have much choice. Still, you stood your ground. And that matters." He paused, then said, "Listen, there's a group of us ranchers, farmers, landowners. We're tired of getting pushed around. We're thinking about forming a coalition, legal support, shared resources, advocacy. We're calling it Private Means Private. You interested? I thought about it for about 2 seconds. Yeah, I'm interested. That was 6 months ago. Today, Private Means Private has 240 members across 7 states. We've got a website, a legal fund, and a growing network of attorneys who specialize in property rights. We've helped stop 3 HOA land grabs, 2 eminent domain attempts, and 1 county rezoning scheme. We're not activists, we're not militants, we're just people who believe that private property means something, and that when someone tries to take it, you fight back. This morning, I sat on my porch with coffee, watching the sunrise over the wetlands. The air was cold, sharp, perfect. Elk were moving through the grass about a quarter mile out, just like they've been doing for thousands of years. Dutch was at my feet, calm and content. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Another rancher in Montana needs help. HOA trying to claim lake access through his land. Sound familiar? I smiled, typed back, "Send me the details." Because this fight, it's not over, but neither am I. I walked down to the northern gate later that morning. The new gate. Steel reinforced, smart lock, solar powered, and hanging on it, a custom metal sign I'd had made. Privet means private. Try again, pay again. I stood there for a moment, looking out at my land. 43 acres. All mine. No HOA, no Patricia, no fight. Just peace. A car drove by on County Road 14. A young couple, probably new to the area. They slowed down, saw the sign, and the driver gave me a thumbs up. I tipped my hat and went back to my life, because that's what this was always about. Not winning, not revenge, just the right to be left the hell alone on land I paid for, worked for, and earned. Private means private, and I'll fight to keep it that way, every single time.